1983 ਤੋਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਦਫ਼ਤਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਫੋਨ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਸੈਟਅਪ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਐਨਸੈਟਲ ਇੱਕ ਮੰਨਿਆ ਪਰਮੰਨਿਆ ਨਾਂ ਹੈ। Panasonic surveillance cameras, computers ਤੇ telephone cabling, call center solutions, conference phone, intercom, speakers, wireless headsets, video conferencing, IP technology ਤੇ voicemail systems ਵੀ ਉਪਲਬਧ ਹਨ। ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸ ਕਮਿਊਨੀਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਲਈ Panasonic equipment ਵਰਤਦੇ ਐਨਸੈਟਲ ਕਮਿਊਨੀਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖੋ। Panasonic ਦੇ ਸਮਾਨ ਦੀ ਗਾਰੰਟੀ ਤੇ ਐਨਸੈਟਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲਜ਼ ਦੇ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਦਾ ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਫਾਇਦਾ ਲਓ। Once again, welcome back to the program. ਅੱਜ ਤੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਨਵੀਂ ਸੀਰੀਜ਼ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰਨ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ। ਅਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਸੀਰੀਜ਼ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮਕਸਦ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਉਹ ਡਿਟੇਲਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋ ਸਕੇ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਚੱਲ ਸਕੇ ਕਿ ਉਸ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਇਹ ਸੀਰੀਜ਼ ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਕਰਨ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਟੈਬੂਜ਼ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਸੋਸਾਇਟੀ ਵਿੱਚ, ਨਾ ਸਿਰਫ ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਭਾਈਚਾਰੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੇਕਿਨ ਮੇਨ ਸਟ੍ਰੀਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਓਪਨਲੀ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਫਲਸਰੂਪ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਸੈਕਸ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਲੋਕ ਘਬਰਾ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਸ਼ਰਮਾ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਤੇ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ 'ਤੇ ਨੌਜਵਾਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ। ਹੁਣ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲੁਕੀ ਛੁਪੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਇੱਕ ਸੈਕਸ ਜੋ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਕਾਮਨ ਚੀਜ਼ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਕਲਚਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਪ੍ਰੈਵਲੈਂਟ ਹੈ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਕਿਉਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਫਲਸਰੂਪ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਸੋਸ਼ਲ ਈਵਲਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਇਨਫਿਡੈਲਿਟੀ, ਪ੍ਰੋਮਿਸਕਿਊਟੀ ਜਾਂ ਪੋਰਨੋਗ੍ਰਾਫੀ ਜੋ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਵੱਧਦੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਲਈ ਅੱਜ ਤੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਨਵੀਂ ਸੀਰੀਜ਼ ਜਿਸ ਦੀ ਨਾਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਰ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਹੈ ਸੈਕਸ ਐਂਡ ਸਪਿਰਿਟ ਸੀਰੀਜ਼, ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿ ਕੈਲੀ ਮੌਂਗਾਜ਼ੇਬ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਮਾਸਟਰ ਫੈਸਿਲਿਟੇਟਰ ਹਨ ਵਰਚੂਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਦੇ, ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਆ ਕੇ ਸਾਂਝ ਪਾਇਆ ਕਰਨਗੇ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਹੈ, ਪਿਛਲੇ 15 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਇਹ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਵੇਅਰਨੈਸ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਸੈਕਸ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਟੈਬੂ ਨਾ ਸਮਝਣ, ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਚੰਗੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਮਝ ਕੇ ਇਸ ਦਾ ਸਹੀ ਉਪਯੋਗ ਕਰਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੁੱਖ ਅਤੇ ਸ਼ਾਂਤੀ ਜੋ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਵਧਾ ਸਕਣ। ਲੈਟਸ ਵੈਲਕਮ ਕੈਲੀ ਟੂ ਦ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ, and with her today we start this series, Sex and Spirit series. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Harpreet,
for
having me.
So a little bit about yourself, how long you have been associated in creating awareness about such kind of topics, and why do you feel there is a need for talking on such issues?
Well, for a long time I have felt an interest in this field. When I first did my social work degree, I was studying mostly about violence against women, and from that angle, and when I did my practicum, I chose to work in that field and get some experience. But what I found over the years is that there was a gap between harmonizing people who are on a spiritual path of some kind and sexuality education.
Right.
And they seem to be kind of two separate things,
yeah.
Right? And in my view, as a woman, you know, like everyone else trying to put those things together, just felt that there was a gap and there was a need for this. So from about the year 2000, I've been putting on talks and seminars to support people to explore how to do that.
In my introduction, I talked about that this issue of sex, you know, it's a taboo, considered to be a taboo, and people don't want to speak about it.
Yes.
Well, you know, in all cultures, mostly in the South Asian culture in which we have grown, these kind of topics are not talked about in homes.
Yes.
And even between couples also, they are not ready to discuss. So what is the situation as far as the mainstream community is concerned? And also, again, why do you feel that right now we find that there are crises all across the world? Promiscuity, infidelity, all these things are increasing, but despite all this, we are still not ready to sit down and talk. So if you can give your viewpoint on this particular issue.
Sure. Well, yes, I think the difficulty in talking about it is across the board.
Right.
I don't think really, unless there's a culture that I'm not aware of that maybe is more protected from mainstream media,
right,
and some of the harmful influences that we've had over the years in the Western culture, certainly, certain influential voices that have led us astray in terms of understanding who we are as sexual beings.
Right.
Because there's very powerful thinkers throughout history. They put out their ideas and then we grab onto that as truth, when it's not really truth. So we come from a long history of shame, most of us. The thing is that sexuality itself is not shameful, but it's what we do with it. So we do because we have this free will and we can choose to act in whatever way we like, we sometimes do overstep our bounds of dignity, and we overstep those boundaries. And then we feel shame. That's actually a natural outcome. It's kind of a signal to our spirit that we're out of alignment.
Right.
It's just the problem is, as a culture and globally, we've become out of alignment as a whole, and the messages that we're receiving support us to live outside of our dignity.
Right.
And so this is where the crisis comes in, is that we're just bombarded with these messages that are not supporting us to live in our spiritual integrity, to feel good about ourselves, and it perpetuates this shaming response that we have. So there's a real need to really look at it and try to start fresh in some cases.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the series which we are starting today, if you can take us through what all we are going to talk about so that our viewers can know this is all we are going to focus in all 4 or 5 series, what we plan to do. So if you can take us through this journey. Sure.
Well, there's several different topics, but today we'll start again from a sort of a broad perspective of what's happening in the culture. I run women's groups, so I can speak to that.
Right.
What I'm hearing from women, what they're experiencing. Later on in this series, I thought we'd touch on the singles world, as well as parenting.
Right.
Because parents really do want to have more comfort in their ability to talk to their children and help them navigate what's out there. So we can touch on that as well.
Okay.
But the whole purpose of the series really is to break down the taboo, to start to have this open dialogue and to really help people have a vision that they can get involved in their own process to become healthier, and that then collectively, we can create more health in our families, starting in our families.
Especially for the youngsters, they should become the ambassadors themselves.
Absolutely.
They understand what it is all about, and then as you said, the free will is there, but that is being misutilized, and that is why we are finding that lots of crises in our communities.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about technology before we venture into this journey. Technology has been great, with the advent of internet, the world has become a global village.
Yes.
But unfortunately, on the other hand, the way it is being misused also, and pornography and other things which are coming up on the internet, they're also having a lot of impact. What is your view about that, and is it a major source of concern, and what needs to be done on that?
Well, the internet has sort of snuck up on us, and all of a sudden we find that the internet is such a part of everyone's daily lives, and the ability to share information, images is just the touch of a button, And I think what's happening on the internet is a reflection of our spiritual or moral condition of our culture.
Right.
If you look into it, there's some really interesting talks that the current technologies have often been driven by the pornography industry.
Right.
That the consumers wanting certain things have inspired those who are creating the technologies to keep creating new things so that the pornography industry can be more and more utilized on the internet. That's the reality. It's not going away anytime soon.
Right.
It's something that exists. It's more about how do we deal with it.
Right.
And the more we can see clearly, the better we can make choices around it.
Absolutely.
I'll give you an analogy or an example. If you're raising your awareness about health and wellness and food and how it really supports you to eat in certain ways, and there's some foods that are really damaging to us over time, like sugar or carbohydrates or certain types of fats.
Right.
Before, we might have been unaware of that and not really seeing what the culture is putting forward in terms of advertising and that. So once you become more aware and you start to go, okay, I really understand this, I'm going to start eating differently, all of a sudden you see out in the media, you say, oh my gosh, everything they're advertising to us is bad for us.
Absolutely.
And you have this awareness. It's like, oh my gosh, look what is being fed to me and my children, and as though it's a good thing.
That's right.
When in reality, it's not a good thing. It's not.
So that's what it is. When you have that awareness, then your mind starts working that I should take this step and I shouldn't take this step.
And you start to recognize the images, the messages for what they are. You can say, okay, that's a lie. They're just feeding me that.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to choose to buy it, engage in it, watch it, whatever. So it really starts with raising awareness.
That's right. And that's the purpose of this particular series, that not only for the mid-age, but for the youngsters also, we are able to tell them that this is what it is and you need to be careful, and then take informed decisions so that it doesn't affect you later on.
Yes, because I'll talk about that. We'll do a whole episode on pornography itself and why it's dangerous.
That's right. And interesting facts, I was just reading somewhere that countries which claim to be religious, or the people who are living over there claim to be religious in those particular countries, I won't name that country, but over there 98% of the people are hooked to pornography on the internet.
Wow.
And it is you can well imagine the way it has penetrated deep into everybody's lives.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's start today then. And so what spiritual principles do you think are aligned with this particular topic, and how we need to take benefit from there?
Well, in our previous series, we talked about virtues.
Right.
So I love to use that language. So I think there's three that I'd like to mention for this series.
Sure.
So because this is very much a topic about men and women.
Right.
And we're still working towards harmonizing our relationships, and really working so that we are a true partnership, and that we are fulfilling our potential as men and as women, and in that family unit we're really giving the best example that we can about a healthy relationship to our children.
Right.
We're still all working towards that, because we have a lot to learn about good communication and conflict resolution and lots of things.
Right. So you're going to focus first on three particular issues.
So those three.
So let's go for a break first,
sure.
and then when we come back, and then we'll learn more about these 3 points. Thanks, and we'll go for a break.